Welcome to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share. All ideas, thoughts, and statements are those of the guest and the host of Echo Oscar Delta, and not of Navy EOD or Navy as a whole. All right, today on the podcast, we have Nap to Ciutiis joins me. During his 24 years on active duty, he deployed 5 times to the Persian Gulf, Bahrain, and Iraq. He retired as a Master Chief. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Jaron. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'd like to start with this question. What brought you to EOD?
Oh man, I was a fire controlman. First off, when I joined the Navy, and I was a Ciutiis tech. I did 2 ships. I did two Persian Gulf deployments with those, and then I wanted to go be a Ciutiis instructor, and my detailer was like, "Well, you can go push boots or recruit or get out." And I was like, I don't want to go back to Great Lakes because I swear to God I wouldn't go north of I-10. I hate the cold. And so I was like, well, can I go recruiting in San Diego? He's like, I don't give a shit. And then he hung up he goes, I'm shifting you over to the other detailer. And so he, long story short, I ended up going recruiting, and I hated every minute of it. I lived a block from my recruiting station. I kicked a can down the road. I had made first class. That I was an E6 at that time, and one of my buddies was at NSCT1 in San Diego, and he said you should go EOD. I didn't know anything about it, so I contacted Mobile Unit 3, and it was Russ Albers was the coordinator. And I went and tried out, and they told me to get the hell out of the pool. I couldn't swim with the crap, and so I went and got total immersion. I got a membership to, I think it was LA Fitness, and I went and swam every morning for 6 months straight, and then I went back and I smoked the test. And so so after all that, I still had to convince my skipper to let me go, and so that was the best sale I ever made in recruiting was convincing my skipper to gap the billet a year early, and at that time they were about to stop taking E6 and above, or E6s for EOD for fleet returnees, and so I squeaked in the door. There's a couple other first classes, and I never looked back, and that was that. And actually, I ended up I was a slick bone chief coming out. I made chief in EOD school. So there's myself and the guy who we were the last guys to make, or active duty guys anyways. There's a couple reserve guys who made it, but yeah, it was just trial by fire. It was awesome.
That's pretty cool. Hey, on when you were in EOD school, so I came in to EOD school from the street, right? So I have that perspective, and I was like to get the fleet accession side. How was it going through school, and then how was it dealing with dudes like me that were just probably super annoying?
No, I don't think it was annoying. I think it was just the guys didn't have anything to reference it against. You know what I mean? So it was like out of, I think there was 36 or 35 or 36 guys. I can't remember back then who started, but the guys who all passed, there were 6 of us originals who didn't roll back and all the rest of that, but they were all fleet returnees. And I think that one right there was we just didn't want to go back to a fucking ship, man. Yeah. We were like, or a squadron or whoever, wherever guys were. But I was like, I'd rather die in the pool and get drug out dead than go back to a ship. So I think when it was when we saw the guys who didn't have the fleet experience, they didn't really know the nugget that they didn't have that reference, right? But then, so you can't appreciate what you don't understand. So at the same time, you can't hold that against the guys who've never been there. So for me, it was kind of a non-starter on that. I think it was good for me coming out from the fleet to, especially the mobile unit, because I knew how to be a chief, but I didn't have the EOD experience. So I was able to rely on my guys there, and it was an amazing time. And then they put a senior chief with me, so that it worked out really well. I had guidance from above and below, and it was an amazing career. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How long did you end up doing EOD during your career?
I went EOD at my 6 year mark, 6 or 7 year mark, I think, and then the rest of the time. So it was like 17 or 18.
Nice.
EOD. Yeah.
How was your time when you got to the mobile unit? Did you get right on a team, start working that, or you have some
We
holding time?
Yeah, so I got to the mobile unit and went right onto a team. Actually, we relieved or we did turnover with Nick Wilson's team, and he
Okay.
when he got killed in 2006. And June 2007, they came back and we did turnover with them, or not turnover in country, but at the mobile unit, just gear swap, and we became the new Det 7. And so it was immediately. We finished TAC training. I think it was March or April, and then got some time off, went to the mobile unit, and immediately started up the platoon. So, or the det back then.
Nice.
Yeah.
How was it? Um, being a chief, being on the team, being a slick bomb, learning EOD, but being responsible for dudes. How was that?
Oh, it's funny that was the hardest part was I think just being more humble. And back then I didn't have a lot of humility, and so it was tough to ride that line of not knowing shit. But then they're like, "Hey, here's you're the team chief." So um, it was it was a lot of listening and a lot of shutting my mouth and opening my ears, sort of stuff, and then just I had such an amazing team of guys that it was it wasn't as hard for me as I think it could have been, or as hard as it was for some guys. I just had an amazing group of dudes and experienced guys too. So yeah, it worked out
Yeah.
well.
Nice. And you said if your next two deployments or your first and second deployment in EOD were both Iraq.
Yeah, I did. I was in Tikrit and Samara the first deployment, and then the second deployment was Mosul and Aqaba down at Warhorse.
How was going from you were on the ship right before so ship deployments and then going EOD and then doing EOD deployments. How was that?
Night and day. I mean, it was absolutely. So on my shipboard deployments, we did a bunch of VBSS stuff, and we worked with the Brits and the Coast Guard or U.S. Coast Guard. We worked with the Brits, and then we worked with the Polish too a little bit, and so that was a great kind of experience. I think on the VBSS side, as a fleet sailor with like no tactical training whatsoever, really. Like we went through VBSS school, and that was like how to climb a cargo container, right? And so
Yeah.
not so much on tactics and stuff like that. I think we had one paintball day on an abandoned ship back then. It was a long time ago. So um, and so. Coming back into EOD, I remember just like that the tail drops on we flew a 17 over there, and that hot exhaust, that 140-degree exhaust just smacks in the face, and you're like, what the hell is this place, right? And so yeah, just absolute night and day difference. And then the first trip outside the wire, you're like, oh my god, man, here it is, right? And so and then it was game on. I think that first deployment, we had two debts. We were one of the first companies. Det 7-9 was what we were, and or company. I can't remember. We hadn't started the company thing yet. It was Det 7-9, and we did over 600 IEDs that deployment.
Wow.
between the two dads. It was busy, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like it.
The second deployment, it wasn't as busy at all. We got a lot of good work in, and then uh, it was it was definitely a different mindset and a different shift. And then we all came back, and ISIS destroyed everything we did anyway. So it was just like whatever. Here we are.
Going into the deployments before and then coming back and seeing all that happen. Obviously that's frustrating. But did you like focus on that at all, or like how did you deal with that?
I think the first, yeah. So that's I didn't deal with it very well, as I think most of the guys do. You know what I mean? You just shut your mouth and just kept on. You just pushed it all deep down the side and kept going, and you didn't let anyone see weakness or show weakness, because the minute you do, then you're not deploying, or you're not. So I think the same thing all of us do is EOD techs are the best guys at hiding stuff. So you just hid your stuff. You hid your ailments. You hid how you felt. You hid all that stuff so you can deploy again.
That's very true. In like all different aspects, we definitely do that. I think it's getting a little better right now. It's getting a little more acceptable to be able to like show, I don't know, the rest of who you are, not just the I can be stoic and when I need to be portion. But
Right.
yeah,
I think if you look at like how we talk about during every time we advance, right? Like especially when you make chief and above, like everyone's like, don't forget where you came from, right? Everyone always says that crap, like don't forget where you came from. But us as adults, when you look back at kids, right? And kids are actually my kids are going to be making some noise in the background, so I hope that doesn't bleed over.
No worries.
So but when you look at kids, they're excited and they're curious and they don't have judgment, and they let you know what their emotions are, and they're like they all get along just friendly, right? But then us as adults, we really forget where the hell we came from to begin with, right? So when you look at your kids and stuff, like that's you, right? And so treat you how you want to be treated, and break that mold of the that cycle of just shutting your mouth and keeping it in and putting them in a box and telling them to shut up, and just like I love helping my kids just be open and honest and allow themselves to have I guess a safe space. That's the word nowadays, right? And have a safe space to be able to show their emotions.
I like it. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I never really thought about it like that. But yeah, we are the kids. We just kind of push that part down and pretend that that's not there. But then, yeah, I mean, it's there.
It's big time. And then so you look at all the seriousness, right? Like what's really serious? Like shit, man, if you've gone to combat, like that's serious. And the rest of it, not so much. Like the rest of it's not really the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it goes back to the comparison thing with the fleet guys and the non-fleet guys, right? It's just when you have a comparison, it's easier to kind of understand the whole picture.
Yeah, that's true. I think still I know for me, it's hard to like turn that off sometimes though, when I'm at home, even when I'm realizing how ridiculous I'm being by like, getting all upset over something that I know is not that serious in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
It's hard to turn that off sometimes.
There's a book called Us, and man, I'll get you the author right now. It's Terrence Real. Terrence Real's the author, and he talks about in the book that he talks about the reactive child. And so like when you're a kid and something happened, right, or there's a traumatic experience or whatever, and you become this reactive kid, right? Well, throughout your life, that when you get that fight or flight response, you get the tightness across your chest, or your ears start turning warm because you're not feeling right, and you want to like, that's just your reactive kid acting out, right? And so would you act, like I wouldn't let my kids act that way, And so you can, so why would I act that way? So when I start feeling that in that direction, right? When I start feeling that tightness or like, I just take two huge deep breaths and I start like, I grab that reactive kid and like put him behind me. I'm like, I got you, man, because I'm an adult and I can handle this like an adult and I don't need to freak out like a stompy kid. And I think once you can master that, when people start complaining and freaking out, like it literally just looks like a stompy, whiny kid where you're like, man, like who messed you up the worst, mom or dad, right?
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So the little questionnaire that I put out, you put a couple things on there, and you talked about. I think they all kind of like go together. Actually, a lot of the things that you put on there, but you put on the EOD Force Overload. I guess why did you put that on there? What does that come from? Or
I think what it was when you saw the amount of responsibilities EOD had and the amount of able bodies EOD had, everyone was exhausted. It was complete burnout and so I don't. I honestly have no idea what's going on in the EOD Force right now. I moved forward and I love my EOD brothers and sisters, but I have no gun in the fight, right? So why worry about something I have no control over? So I don't know how it is now. I hope that it's a problem that's being resolved or has been resolved or maybe not. I don't know. But there was just so many tasks and responsibilities and then extra things on the outside of all those responsibilities, the paperwork, the requirements, um, the ASM reporting, all that extra stuff, right? That they just kept on putting on. They're like, well, this will just help you do your job more. And it's like, no, you got to put it, there's so much more you got to do just to do that. And then, you get home at 8 o'clock at night and then, mom is like, well, what the hell? You're not deployed yet. And you're like, hey, welcome to EOD, right? And then, then it's a rinse and repeat every day. And then guys jump in the bottle because they got to go home and deal with raging mama, right? Because there's no communication. They didn't explain it because, they just look shiny and fancy. And then, and, and, and then they get married and then all of a sudden they're like, what the hell, this isn't what I signed up for, right? And because the guy hasn't communicated, and then it's crazy, man. And so I just I think towards the end, like you see all these senior guys exhausted. They're mentally done. And it's sad because you can see it in the eyes, man. I was just down at Chuck Corneli's retirement, like I said before, and I looked around. You can see all the guys who had a combat timing, man. Like we all look like shit. Like we just look tired, though. You know what I mean? You can see, and so there's guys there who were helicopter pilots or in squadrons or whatever, who didn't have that same just wear and tear on them, and it was really funny to look around to see the difference of people. And I made a huge note of that with there's about a handful of us there post combat EOD guys, and we all look just droopy, bag under the eyes, like just tired, man.
one of the things that I think about, because I think we're still kind of the same way today. All the extra stuff that's put on, the tasks that are required, and then just the willingness to just keep saying yes. Like, do you see that a lot too? That
I think that absolutely the when you see the type of people that join EOD, right? They want to please. They're pleasers. They want people to be happy and accepted, and all, generally, right? And so they have a problem saying no. Like I don't have the bandwidth for this because The other side is on like how do you make rank? Not by saying no, you
Right.
know. So at that point, man, you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Is like, do I burn myself out and sacrifice my family and make the next rank so I can take care of my family that's not there anymore? You know, so it's just that that perpetuating cycle of providing, but then sacrificing, and then providing and sacrificing, and not being able to take time for yourself. Like there's very little self healing thing. Even PT time is really not for you. That's so you can go do your job for the other guys, right? So
Yeah.
there's really not a time where you have like unless you make it, and a lot of guys don't allow themselves to the time to decompress.
Well, you were in. How were you like? Obviously, it sounds like you've kind of figured out a lot of those answers now. When you were in, did you have those answers yet, or did you figure them out while you were in?
Man, I've been retired since 2020. I think I figured out some of those answers maybe a couple months ago. Um,
Really?
I yeah, I left. I left the marriage recently, actually about a year ago, and I had to go out and go do a lot of self care and finding myself. And I went on a drive to Montana. I own my ex-wife and I still run a CBD extraction company, and so I run it out of Montana. My uncle's up there, and I drove up there to Montana, and I got like half a pound of weed, and I went in the mountains of Montana, and I left all my anger up there. And I found like a spirit horse and Jesus and Buddha, like all of them, right? And I shouted and I screamed and I cried, and I just had my truck. That was it. I'd driven out of my house and just drove off. And so I left all my anger up there, man. I came back down and I was like, I have to stick up for me for once, right? And I think that's what a lot of guys don't have. They haven't figured that part out. Like, it's cool to stick up for you. You can absolutely do that, right? And tell people exactly how you effing feel. And if they don't like you, then those aren't your people. And who
Right.
cares after that, right? And so, are they going to have a positive or negative influence on you? Probably not. So, who cares, right? Like, you choose yourself, and then and those people who will be on that same frequency or same whatever, the same wavelength as you, they're going to show up. You'll attract those people. So that man, there's been a bunch of, and it's never ending, right? It's just like EOD. You never stop learning. So how do you be a decent human being, man? Like, you got to work on yourself first. And so I think that's what a lot of guys haven't been yet, is they've been worried about, they've been raised in this cycle of having to provide for others, right? Like, that's what you're supposed to do as a guy. And so you're stuck in this masculine role of providing, but you don't stop and take and really take care of we tell everyone that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family, you can't take care of the guys, right? But no one does that shit.
Right.
It's until you really start doing it where you're like, oh my god, like there's this. It's almost like an awakening of like all this shit flies off your shoulders. Um, you just become peaceful again. It's a good feeling so far.
Yeah.
But I don't
That's
know. I don't
awesome.
know. I don't know fuck about shit. You know what I mean? So like that. I'm only 44. I don't know a damn thing, man. I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up going up to Montana every summer. My mom was from Montana, and dude, I have to say, even without any of the extracurriculars, which I definitely can't do
Yeah.
right now, active duty and all. Um, there's something about that place. Like when you get up into Montana, and you just see how big it is, and like it doesn't take much to realize you're actually a really small piece in this whole thing. And just every time I'm up there, I come away so much happier.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely just enlightening, and it was I've got a extraction going on just north of it's actually up in Ronan, Montana area. So, but yeah, it's beautiful country up there, and yeah, you don't have the input you do in the other places. You know what I mean? You're just kind of just stuck there in nature, and it's wonderful. Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where in Montana, you guys just go to?
Kalispell, Whitefish area, so just south of Glacier.
Okay, yeah, I know that area. That's awesome, man.
You talked about being a peaceful warrior. Is that where like it? Where did that come into it? You know, I think it makes sense on the, you know, talk about the EOD Force Overload. You get overloaded. You keep saying yes, and then at some point, you know that when you're at that way, I know for me when I'm like just maxed, I'm not peaceful.
Right.
But you kind of trying to find that place or
I think what I was saying there was everyone knows the one guy, right, who's just really relaxed and calm and sits in the back corner and just observes. And then when they have input, it's forceful input and it's right input, or you know, it's along the lines of what everyone needs, right? And so I think what guys need to really do is just you don't have to always you don't always have to be balls to the wall angry or balls to the wall going all the rest. You know, if that makes sense, you can just you can sit down and observe and just listen. I mean, I take an hour on the beach at least 3 times a week, and I just go grab a chunk underneath the pier, and I let the pylons kind of, or the pilings, sorry, not the pilings kind of like mark out a little TV to the world, right? It's the boundaries. And so I just watch that, and as people walk in and out, and I just listen to the waves, I listen to the wind, I listen to the grass blowing. Like they all have a different frequency, right? But they all kind of make this cool ass sound together. And so that's my Zen time, man. And you can just sit out there and be peaceful and chill out and listen to your environment. And I think when you can still be forceful if needed, or when needed, or actually only when needed. And then the rest of the time, you can just be peaceful and happy and loving, man. And so it's a lot better, as you know, for your psyche, because you concentrate on that peaceful part, but you still know that you can be forceful if you need to. And so when you start concentrating on that peaceful part more, then that's your primary focus, instead of just that primary focus being angry all the time and gung ho and like, rah, I need to destroy. Well, hell yeah, man, you're going to destroy everything around you, like, including you, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, listening to that, thinking back, the people that I think have made the most impact in meetings and on me are exactly that. The people that are, you know, quiet for the most part, but when they talk, you're like, oh man, they don't really say that much. So when they're speaking, I'm gonna listen.
Right. Rather than the guys who talked all the time, like that was me. I talked all the time, and that fucking they're like, oh, now I'm talking again, right? So I'm not blind to that fact. There's probably a bunch of old ass fucking masters on there laughing or being like, yeah, fuck that dude right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fucking stupid ass slick on feet. Yeah.
That's funny. Actually, speaking of old mass chiefs and whatnot, you wrote down a couple people that, you know, kind of were influences to you in your career. Yeah, whether you want to say names or not, that's up to you. But the people that did influence your career, and you know, whether it was, you know, your career in terms of like making rank or getting jobs, or just you as a person inside of the EOD career, what were some of the I don't know, I guess benefits, or not really benefits, that's not the right word, but what were the things that they did that actually made that influence on you?
Man, there's so many guys that did so many different things that helped me grow as an EOD guy and as a sailor and as a man. You know, just like I think like on the just to to name like a handful of kind of, and I know this is almost a political answer, right? But like there's a shitload of them, man, where even the guys I did not get along with, they still taught me stuff, man. They taught me either what I didn't want to be like, or they taught me like, oh man, like shit, I can't believe he fucked up like that. I better not do that same thing again, right? So uh and then the guys, young kids, man, too, like guys who just came, like when I was in R&T at Mobile 5 out in Guam, there was young kids who came in who had life experience, like crazy. Like I remember one kid. I'm gonna try to not say as many names as I can. Like I'm gonna try to not name drop, man, as much as I can on this thing. Like, I know I already name dropped Chuck, man. Like sorry, Chuck, and congratulations on your retirement. And so, but one of the kids came in and he was 28 or 29 and third class, and he'd worked on the oil rigs up in Alaska, right? And so and just to sit there and just not judge someone like based on their slick bomb, and trying to find out who that kid was and what made him tick or what made him what not to say around him, right? Like because you don't know his background, but when you start to really get to know those guys, and heck yeah, man. So the junior guys taught me a lot of stuff, and then senior guys absolutely, and I kind of fell into being a junior EOD tech, but a senior guy in as a slick bomb chief. So it was very enlightening to get a wide variety of guys, man. I loved it, every minute of it. It was always learning, and guys I still keep in contact with almost every day. It's been an amazing ride. But yeah, that was I know that didn't answer your freaking question at all, man. But there's just it was everyone, man. It was literally everyone in EOD I ever came in contact with were influential on me, and so I always took something from every single person I ever met.
Yeah, I think what I hear most in that is as long as you're willing to somebody's going to teach you something, whether they're trying to or not. Whether it's the purposeful or the, like you said. Don't do that. As long as you're willing to look for that, there's a lot of lessons to be had in just life.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, just, I think you learn so much better because you're brothers right off the bat, right? And so you're more apt to, when you're sitting in the truck for 27 IEDs in a row, then you get exhausted and you start just like you don't know anything about it. Like every single guy in that truck knows every single thing about that guy, every single guy in the truck, right? So there's no secrets, man.
That's very true.
Yeah, lots of dirt. People have lots of dirt on lots of people, right? So but no, just to be able to understand the guys that way, right, and know where they came from and how they are as human beings, and we're all just stuck in a place to do a thing, and whether you liked it or not, or whether you thought it was right or not, then it's still an experience. So
yeah,
I think there's that old saying, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah. I actually just heard that not that long ago. I love that because it's so true. We always it's so easy to make the decision on whether something's good or bad right away. But then, tomorrow comes and you're like, oh, well, turns out that presented an opportunity,
Exactly.
Guess it wasn't.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. I love that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite little things been around the internet lately.
Yeah. Being on Guam, how'd you like that tour?
I love Guam, man. It was absolutely it made me regret, and I know I use that word like really lightly. It made me regret not going overseas way earlier in my career, because it was my second to last tour, and then I was going to shore duty after that. So, excuse me. When I got out to Guam, I was like, man, I should have just stuck it overseas. And I saw where the guys who had spent most of their time, in Guam or Rota or Sicily did that. because I was like, man, I should have, could have, would have, but
Yeah.
at the time, just the situation didn't arise, so I was like, it was what it was.
Yeah.
But Guam was awesome, man. Just to, I also, man, I'm only 5'6" and I hurt, right? Because all the big EOD guys can carry a lot more weight than me. So, but I still tried to keep up. So, but my body hurts now like bad. So, Guam was great because it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
If I could stay as close to the equator as possible, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. I must have just missed you then because I came back from Guam in 2014. So
Yeah, we
just
we were ships in the night, man. Yeah, you had just left, I think. Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was absolutely awesome. I was out there with an insane, awesome group of guys. And actually, I was just at the retirement with most of those guys out there. So, um, yeah, absolute blast. And then just a traveling experience. And my kids, my daughter was born out there. My youngest daughter was born out in Guam. My oldest daughter went to her freshman year. She flew out from her mom's place to go to her freshman year of high school out in Guam. And then, and my son was, when we came back to Florida, my son was like, it was like November in Florida and starting to get cold up in the Panhandle. And he's like, Dad, we need to go back to Guam. He's like, my eyeballs are freezing. And then they found fire ants, right? Because they didn't even wear shoes in Guam. They're little island kids, So, but yeah, every year we'd burn all the air miles and we'd go to Thailand. We'd go to Phuket and stay at the J Dub there. And every year we'd ask the kids like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go next? They're like, Thailand still. And so we just keep on going back to Thailand. The kids loved Asia, man. It was such an amazing place. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Being out there, that's one of the huge benefits. Like I didn't take advantage of it as much as I should have when I was there. Luckily, I got to go for a bunch of work trips to different places. But
right.
Yeah, I didn't realize how good it was until I wasn't there.
Exactly. What kind of platoons do you do when you're out there?
My first one, we were supposed to go to Iraq. We ended up being a CSG, so slight change. Second one was Philippines, and then third one was the CRIF team.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, no, that was it. That was my favorite tour out of all my Navy tours. That was absolutely my favorite place to be. So yeah, it did that 27-hour flight back and forth to the States. That sucks. So.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
How was that actually? It's rough for us. How was that for your kids?
So it actually, on the way out there, I gave Gino. Adele wasn't born yet, and then and my oldest had not. She was still living with her mom, so it was just my wife at the time and our youngest son, or our son. We melatonin him. We gave him melatonin because we flew from Atlanta straight to Hawaii, and it was a straight shot. It was a long flight, and so we waited till he started getting real fussy because he was only, was he 4? He was 4. Like he was at the age where he was starting to he was a jerk. He was at the age where he was a jerk. And so we're like, here's your kid's melatonin, like, good night. And then he woke up like halfway through, like somewhere over the Pacific, right? And just freaked out. And we were like, oh no, like, and then he only freaked out for like a minute and went right back to sleep. And we're like, hallelujah. So we stayed in Hawaii for a week just to get his clock, kind of working a little better. And then when we jumped on the flight from Hawaii to Guam, by the time we landed in Guam, he was good to go. So that was, coming from Florida over to Guam was that Hawaii trip. If we hadn't stayed there a week, like I couldn't have done this. The second leg of that was Hawaii to Guam, 8 hours or 9 hours or something crazy like that. Yeah. Oh no, we flew through Japan too. So we didn't. Yeah, so it was Hawaii to Japan to Guam. So it was even longer. Yeah.
That's I'm gonna have to remember that because there's a chance I might have to need some of those tips here in the future.
Right. Well, and that's where I was like, 'cause, I asked my mom or my dad, what, how'd you guys, my dad's like, just drug them. And I'm like, I'm not going to drug my kid, Dad. And he goes, we drugged the hell out of your sister with Benadryl and she's a doctor. So, and I'm like, well, he's got a point, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, he's like, yeah, that's the only way I can handle dealing with your sister was to give her Benadryl. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that, Dad. So we got kids melatonin for him. So it worked out.
That's good. That's good. So now that you're out, and I know you said you're not involved in the like active duty community. That's kind of its own thing, but I know you are pretty involved with the veterans and those that are out. I know you've got a project too. Do you want to share anything about?
Yeah. So, man, I think this last year we've had 4 guys commit suicide, 4 Navy guys in the last year, and then one died of brain cancer. And one of the guys who committed suicide was my LPO on my first deployment, and so his sister and I came together, and we decided that we want to start writing a book on veteran suicide. And like, how do we stop, I don't even know if we can, right? Because it's like I said earlier, EOD guys are the best at hiding their shit, right? So they can deploy. Are they best? Like, we are masters at hiding things. So no one's going to just come forward and say like, hey, I feel like this because, and I hope they do, right? But generally EOD guys don't do that shit. So you get all these guys who are like, I did not see that coming, right? Because they've been really good at hiding all this stuff. So how do we all open ourselves up so that we understand each other, right? And so Carla and I, Carla Morton is Ronnie Morton's sister. Carla and I sat down. We started talking about what if we wrote a book about anonymous near suicides or veterans who wanted to commit it but didn't do it because of X, Y, and Z, right? And then we published that book, but we kept everyone's name completely anonymous. And so if everyone reads their bros and sisters stories and they don't have a clue who it is, and then when you look at your skipper or you look at your brand new 3rd class slick bomb and you don't know who wrote it, you look at your brothers and sisters in a different light. And then you start treating them maybe a little bit different rather than the 2 roads in EOD, right? Is like, or in the spec ops community, right? Is like, you're good to go or you're a piece of shit. And that's it, right? Because everyone asks about the guy, like, hey man, how's whoever? Like, that guy's a piece of shit, right? Or like, oh, he's good to go. Or right down the middle, like, oh, he's a nice guy, but he sucks as an EOD guy, right? Or whatever. Like, those are the 3 paths. So, but the funny thing is, like, just being in EOD, you're already special being in the military, right? You're the 1% of the population in the military. Well, shit. And then you made it through a school with 80+% attrition rate, right? Like, that's pretty fucking special to begin with. So you should just be good to go, right? And I know that everyone's there's going to be guys armchair quarterbacking the hell out of this thing right now, right? Like, yeah, well, fucking the instructors and blah blah blah, right? And so yeah, there's always guys that squeak by and all the rest of that, but whatever, man. When you look at everyone who's in this community, we're all doing a job for that's a pretty special reason, right? So right off the bat, you can probably dump that shit back freaking road, right? And just start treating some people with a little bit of respect, because it's, I think the paradigm shift of the mental health community, right? Like I remember when we were out in Guam, we had a mental health doc come in, and she was amazing. And the first thing she said was like who's the post deployers here? Who's been to Iraq, right? And all us old guys, we all raise our hands, and she goes, I'm going to talk to each and every one of you guys. And so and she did. She hauled us in. She goes, you guys are effed up in your head, man. Like, you guys have seen stuff that no one else does, and you just don't even understand it, right? And so let's fillet it open and talk about it. So I think that this paradigm shift of the mental health thing needs to show results where people have or people have had help and it hasn't hindered their career, or it has, you know what I mean? Like there needs to be a positive outcome of it rather than saying, oh yeah, you can get mental health help, right? And then while you're doing that, you don't get to deploy, you don't get to, you know, or I don't know how it is now, but that back then I was like, if you're undergoing medical stuff, then yeah, man, you can't deploy, right? You need to go get help because right off the bat. But then people are like, well, why isn't he deploying, right?
Yeah.
So, um, so I think if people started accepting the fact that that human beings in general need to work out their brains. We work our bodies out 2 hours each day, right? But when you're talking to your counselor, working out your brain, or getting your feelings out, or talking to your bro about something, right? No one does that, and so, or no one does it openly,
Yeah.
anyways, or no one, yeah. And so, just accepting that every single one of us has something going on that that no one else understands, right? Like that
Yeah.
helps you just appreciate that person just as much. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if I just talked around in circles on that one or not.
No, no. So actually, there's a couple things that I wanted to, kind of share with you. Well, we're on here. One, the first thing wasn't part of it, but it is becoming more acceptable now. And like, I got an appointment on Tuesday. I've been putting it off for what, probably 2.5, 3 months, but I made one. But something that I think is interesting, especially now, right? The war's been kind of drawn down. There's not as much going on. It's kind of, it's hard. Like, it's hard to find something going on for the Navy EOD community right now.
Right.
But I think that kind of brings in some extra weird things. One, I think it kind of, for everybody who was going so hard for so long, and just, you get used to what you're used to, right? Like we were talking a bit ago, that force overload where it's train, don't even complete a workup, go, like come back, do the same thing and just keep going and going and going. And now you're still training, but now you're doing a full workup cycle, and then you're going and you're doing whatever deployment you're on, but it's not the Iraq, Afghanistan style. Right. And,
Right.
there's some, I think a lot of guys have some mental negatives with that, right? Like, I won't get into all that, but, then I think there's the guys now that, just the workup to deployment, like the way we do that. I think one of the reasons why Navy EOD is so good is because we do that with so much seriousness all the way through, right? Like, in terms of, we know what the end result of it is, and we try to, as much as possible from day one, put that into our training. But with that comes a lot of stress. And I think guys who don't have, I was kind of one of them, don't have Iraq, Afghanistan deployment, think, well, I don't have problems then, I mean, I got problems, but I don't got problems.
Right.
And
yeah, everyone's got a damn problem, man.
yeah, exactly. Like mine, and hiding it, one of my worst problems, and I'll say it. Like, most people don't see it because I hide it really well, but it's anger. Like, holy cow, dude! I like, normal day at work. There's been a few guys on some teams that have seen a little bit, but for the most part, sadly, mine I take home with me. And like,
Yeah.
just lose it at home because I'm holding it together at work. And like, that ain't healthy. But
you're also letting it happen at work, right? So if it happens at work, you can let it happen at home too, because it's just happening.
yeah,
So yeah, man, it's tough. There's another great book I read called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've read that one or not, man.
no,
By Don Miguel Ruiz, and that book really helps you kind of find you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, holy shit, like when you read that, you're like, I just like, it all clicks in your head, like your whole growth pattern, like from a kid up to where you're at right now, right? You're like, well, I kind of get it now. And
Yeah.
so you can, and so it's like it's like that masterboard scenario where you go out at the end and you work you reverse engineer the whole thing, right? Like you know where you're at now. Now you can reverse engineer it because now you kind of know the steps, right? And you go back to that one event or whatever it was that made you the way you are or why you are the way you are. And now you can change it if you want because you have the whole path of where you were. You know, it's a great little roadmap book, and it's an easy read. It's I have to listen to everything on Audible like 1.6 speed. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I lose attention real quick. So it's only about 2.5 hours at 1.6 speed.
That's awesome. Um, one of the things that I actually wanted to tell you is, I found you on one of the Facebook groups, right? And then you started your Facebook group for the project, and I think not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago, I said I wasn't ever going to say this, but I think it's part of the point of doing this is to put things out there, right? And if people want to say
Right.
One thing or not, I don't care. But I had a very different view on like suicide a year ago, like a harsh critic kind of view. And as I started reading, some of the things that people are putting on there and just kind of getting exposed to it, whereas I was kind of sheltering myself away from it before, it's kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things and made got me like thinking about the kind of the questions that you're posing, like why, because
Right.
who knows like you said, who knows if we can stop it or whatever, but man, if you don't try, then you definitely can't. So
Yeah, and I think what it is like it's not trying to. I think it's just really trying to open people's eyes to seeing that you can be a human being, right? And
yeah,
so once you figure out that you can just be a regular human being, like life becomes like I enjoy watching that sun come up every morning. I can't wait. I get up at 3:30 in the morning, and my daughter's sneaking behind here in the camera. Um, and so
just having a good time.
yeah, she is. And so, man, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I get a cup of coffee, and I sit here and I wait for the sun to come up every morning. I love it. That's my zen time, And and we're so dang lucky to be here, and people just don't understand it, right? Like the odds. What are the odds of the Earth being formed perfectly from the sun in order to sustain life, and then you're the fastest sperm up to you, right? Through evolution or creation or both, or however you want to look at it, man, you just lucked out. You won the best lottery, and you get to fly in a tube at like the speed of sound across the world, right? And like you can go anywhere. You don't have to travel by wagon train or get hunted as a witch or whatever, man. Like you lucked out, right? So man, when you don't get to watch that ball of fire come up, or when you don't get to smell the ocean, I think you're missing out, and so, but that's me, right? And so it's like you said, I can't explain why someone else would do it. Maybe they're tired of living. Maybe they're just done, right? When you're done doing something, you just quit it, right? Maybe they're just done doing that, or maybe they're protecting themselves, or maybe we don't know, right? Like
Right.
whatever they did it. And so, am I going to judge my brother on that? No, man, I'm not. I'm gonna make sure his kids are taken care of and love his family and all the rest of that. And that's all I can do, right? Because you can't change what's in the past, and only a fool trips on something behind them. So how do you just make the future better, right?
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I encourage, like, especially, so I know this goes across all EOD, obviously, and right now, and we're not shunning the other branches, right? But there's too much input from everyone, and so we kept this project just to the Navy EOD part. And so if anyone's on that page right now on that Facebook page, it's an invite only. And if they know other EOD guys, Navy EOD guys who need to be on that page, I would ask that everyone Navy EOD gets on that page and sends input. I've set up a email also, so you can post anonymously on that website or on the Facebook page. You can post anonymously, and then I've also set up a email address if people want to just shoot their stories separately, and 100% the name just stays there in the email. It never goes anywhere else. So, but I want to be able to get everyone's story out there, including mine, and you know, my reasons why I didn't do it, right? But everyone else has a damn reason. So I want everyone to understand everyone else's feelings and kind of look at their brothers and sisters in a different light.
Yeah, I think it's really important in all aspects, whether it's suicide or anger or happiness, whatever, like all of aspects, to have a place that you can go and you can talk, you can share, you can communicate, right? Like I think that I know for me that helps a lot, and I'm not a great communicator just in general. It's weird that I tried to start this podcast thing, but part of it is I think one of the ways like EOD techs tend to be successful is we find things that are uncomfortable and then we just do them, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. But providing that place that you can go and share, even if it's you're totally fine, everything's good now, right? It may be your story on the past thing that happened, to you, whether it was in your head or an external thing. It may be that changes it for somebody else. And I think, without a place is.
100%, man. And it's I can only look at these stories like once a week, right? Like it's heavy. It's super heavy. And so, but there's a commonality to the stories. There's always a commonality to it, right? Where like, man, like it's toxic marriage and overworked and drinking and anger and mom or dad effed me up when I was a kid, right? Like they put me in a box I didn't belong in, but they just beat me down until I was in this box and I didn't want to be there, right? Like there's all these commonalities of it where everyone's just like, dang, man, like it seems almost easy to fix, right? But then when you feel like it's easy to fix, you sound crazy to everyone else.
Yeah, that's true.
You're like, well, just feel like this, right? And people are like, you're fucking crazy, man. So, yeah, I don't know. It's very. I was even this weekend. There's some shit that happened where I was like I just wanted to come from within, man. Like I was down in Tampa, and this guy was just being a jerk next to me in this truck, and I'm like, come on, dude. Like, not today, man. Like, I won't be a peaceful warrior, right? And he just kept on like pushing the button with that truck, man. Like he kept on coming in my lane and just being an asshole for no reason. And I turned right and I just got away from him. And but in the past, man, my window would have been down. I probably would have thrown a golf ball through his window. Like something would have came out of my truck at him, right? Like F this dude. Like I was so mad, but yeah, I had to stop that reactive child from showing up again, and the ears weren't just red; they were white hot, man. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was it's constant work on yourself. You have to constantly do it, and it's this thing. It's like communication, right? You're not good at it. Well, how do you get good at it? You fucking practice, man. It's how do you do anything else? How do you get good at shooting? How do you get good at demo? How do you get a good dive? And you gotta just fucking do it. So, yeah, communication and working on yourself. You just have to choose to do it, and then not only just like read the books, right, but like apply it, because you just read it and regurgitate it, and then you're just YouTube, right? And so if you don't apply it in your life and give it a shot, or make it a habit, right, then you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like studying for a master board or a senior board or whatever, and you read it and then you just put that to the side and continue on your life. I mean, you may gain a little bit, but you got to find those places to implement all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it is. I think we all said that the smartest case is a senior tech, right? Brand new senior tech. That guy knows everything, right? But then by the time you're master tech, you're like, fuck, I don't know any of that senior tech shit because I never used it.
It's so true. Every time I sit a senior board as a chair or whatever, like, man, it's actually better because I'm doing it a lot more now. So I'm like, there's a lot less questions that I don't remember now. But
Right.
yeah, the first one you sit after a while, you're like, all right, I can't let
or
everybody
you
know.
yeah, or like the guy who's like who you just let sit in on the board, right? You're like, give me all your fucking questions, man. Let me look at these, and then you're like, go burn a copy of these for me, or you go burn a copy of them, right? So you can have like more senior questions because you're like, fuck, I don't remember anything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was funny as heck. So, no, man. I think I really hope this book is going to go well. Joe Schaefer, I need to throw a bone out to him. He helped me so much. I sat down with both of them and went over just the steps they went through, and when they wrote their book and the requirements they had to do and all the rest of that. So he gave me such a huge leg up in that. And if anyone hasn't read Unsung yet, great, amazing book. They did a brilliant job on it. Thank you guys so much for not only writing that, but thanks to everyone who did the input for that thing, and also to the Schaefers for helping me for helping me out with this next project coming up. So. I think what we'd like to do is not only get the active duty guys or retired guys in the first book, but do a follow-up book for the White Star families, so that people can understand how the families felt like that, brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers, and then we're going to be putting all proceeds for the wounded, for EOD Warrior Foundation, and then also for and Soft Foundation.
Yeah.
So we'll just split that.
You
we'll split the
first started thinking about the book and trying to figure out how you were gonna, get the information, the stories, and all that. How much exposure to like putting something like this together did you have, or was it like coming in from ground zero?
Yeah, it was a masterboard. I had no fucking, I had no idea what to do. Right, so it was just, that's kind of how I looked at it. It was just another thing. So, where do I want to be, and how do I reverse engineer it? And so I knew that we wanted to focus on. And Carla and I sat, we talked for hours on this one. We spent probably days of talking so far on it. Just like the best way to attack it. And then another guy who's been huge helping me out too has been Todd Sheckler. Thanks, Todd. I appreciate you. He's been amazing in helping me propel this. Not only am I a single dad, I'm a realtor, and I run the CBD company, and then I've got a book going on. So back to work overload, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we can hopefully just make a change in how people view each other. I don't know if it's going to stop anything. Like, guys make their own decisions, right? So,
yeah.
But if you can view people in a different way, maybe you're going to treat people a different way. Maybe it's the way that person got treated is going to make a difference in their life too. So,
I think it's awesome. I think, like you said, no matter what, I think only good can come from it. What that good is exactly, we'll see. The important part is like doing that work that you're doing. If you need anything from me,
yeah, no, this is it, man. This is what I definitely need. I need to put out there. I need the Navy EOD guys to the guys who are already on the page to put every other Navy EOD buddy they've got on that page, and I need guys to start putting input, because we're all going to, we had to do it as a team back in the day, and so we got to do it again. I think if everyone comes together, we can at least help one person, man, and that's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. You got anything else you want to
No, man. So I don't know if the video goes up when you guys post this or not, but I have to explain the Christmas tree. I had 6 glasses of wine at this realtor function. It was a Christmas tree auction, and I bought that Christmas tree at way over the price of what the Christmas tree is worth. So, and I know 6 glasses of wine sounds way better than 2 bottles, right? So, so after 2 bottles of wine, that Christmas tree came home with me, and it is now not only my Christmas tree, it is my Easter tree and my Memorial Day tree and 4th of July tree, and a constant reminder not to drink at the next Christmas tree auction.
I was wondering, it's been a few months since Christmas.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, well, I've got it up early for 4th of July.
I like it. It is 4th of July themed. That's good. So yeah, if you're listening to this and not watching, it is a 4th of July themed Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's a 100% patriotic red, white, and blue Christmas tree, and actually, there's red, white, and blue lights on it. So at night, it looks real nice, Clark.
That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So no, man, Jaron, I appreciate it, dude. It's great. Finally meeting you. I know we missed each other out in Guam. But yeah, man, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on and talk about the project and talk about just looking out for our bros and our sisters, right? Because
absolutely.
Realistically, man, when you get out of the Navy, one of my favorite guys, one of my dearest friends in the world, used to say, "Remember that big party the Navy threw for you when you joined?" And you said no, and then he says, "They don't give a fuck when you get out either." So, true story, man. Don't worry about it. After you get out, and after you it doesn't matter anymore, man. Just keep moving on. Only a fool trips on something behind them, right? So, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, right on, Jaron. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share.